Today's lesson is on trade first subtraction. The lesson is 2.9. The objective that you will be writing into your notebook is I can use the trade first subtraction algorithm, which is a strategy to solve multi-digit subtraction problems. I can also use rounding to figure out ballpark estimates. So you're going to be working with some rounding today and working with some subtraction problems. So put this into your notebook. Now, what I'd like you to do is to copy these two problems down and then solve them using a strategy that you feel successful with. So you'll stop the video and you will work out these two problems. Now, thinking back to our last lesson when we were doing ballpark estimating, you use rounding to the highest place value. So when you look at these numbers, you notice that you have the number 235 and you go to the highest place, which is 200, and you look to that right, and that right is your indicator. Do you stay at 200 or do you bump it up? And with the 3 you stay. Go to the next one. You highest place is the hundreds. You look to the right, and with that 5, that's an indicator to bump up to 500. And then the highest place here is the thousands place. Look to the right, and with the 7, that tells you to bump the thousands place up to 2,000. So that is your ballpark estimate, or that is your using your rounding skills. So we are going to be practicing ballpark estimating with our subtracting. So first of all, let's get a ballpark estimate for these two subtraction problems. So I am going to look at 512. The highest place is the hundreds place, with that 1 that indicates for me to stay at 500. 364, look to the right, with that 6, that's an indicator to bump 3 up to 400. So when you do your subtracting, the ballpark estimate would be somewhere around 100. Now looking at the next problem, we are in the look to the hundreds place, and there's a 0, so obviously you're only 3 away from 400. So 400 is your estimate. Hundreds place, look to the right. That 5 is an indicator to bump up to 200. So again, subtracting, we have a ballpark estimate of 200. So the next problems we are actually going to be solving, we are going to be looking to see if the final answer is somewhere around 100 or 200. And the answer in a subtraction problem is called the difference. So we are going to be using this trade first subtraction method, and we're going to look at 512 subtract 364. Well, if you go to your ones place, you always start in the ones place, and you have to take 4 away from 2. You can't do that. So you go next door, and you know you have 110. You're going to borrow that 10, so you're going to drop it down to a 0 and carry 10 over. So now you had 2, and you bring 10 over. That is now 12. So 12 is bigger than 4. Now 0 is not bigger than 6, so we have to still do some trading. So I'm going to borrow 10 tens from 500. So 10 tens is the same as 100. So I'm going to drop 5 down to the 4 and carry 10 tens over. So now I didn't have any before, so now I have 10. So 10 is bigger than 6 and 4 is bigger than 3. So I have all my larger numbers on top, so I know I'm ready to subtract. And using your knowledge of your subtraction facts, 12 subtract 4 is 8, 10 subtract 4, or 6, I mean, is 4. And then 4 subtract 3 is 1. So we have an actual answer of 148. And when we went back to our ballpark estimate, we wanted the answer to be somewhere in the hundreds, and it is. It's 148. Well, let's look at this next one. We have 403 subtract 158. 3 is not larger than 8, so we go next door. But this is the tricky part. When you go next door, there aren't any 10s to borrow, so you have to borrow from thinking 40 tens is the same as 400. So now I can go ahead and go, oh, okay, I'm going to drop 40 tens down to 39 tens, and I'm going to bring 10 over to join up with my 3 I already have. So now I have 13. Subtract 8, 9 is bigger than 5, and 3 is bigger than 1. We're good to subtract. So 13 subtract 8 is 5. 9 subtract 5 is 4. And 3 subtract 1 is 2. So we have 245. And again, go back to our ballpark estimate. We wanted our answer to be somewhere around 200. So we can safely think we are doing some strong thinking. So that is the trade first method. So let's go back to your original problem that you did in your notebook, and just looking at trade first, let's see if you got to the correct answer using whichever strategy you felt comfortable with. So I'm going to do trade first. So 0 subtract 7, you can't do it, so I'm going to go next door. I'm going to borrow 10. I'm going to bring 10 over. I have 10 subtract 7, that works, and 8 subtract 3, we're good. So I can come up with an answer of 53. Hopefully you did that as well. Let's look at the other problem. 9 is bigger than 7, that's good. 3 though is not bigger than 5, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to borrow 10 tens, which is a 10 from, which is the same as 100. So I'm going to drop this down to 1. I'm going to bring 10 over with my 3 tens I already had. So now I have 13 tens. All right. And which is bigger than 5, and then 1 subtract 1 is good to do as well. So 9 subtract 7 is 2. 13 subtract 5 is 8. And whenever you have a 0, you don't put that there. You just leave the answer as 82. So hopefully you worked out the same answers as you got 53 as your difference and 82 as your difference. Moving on, we are going to practice some more trading first problems. So we have 736 subtract 458. So 6 is not bigger than 8, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to bring 10 over join it with my 6. 2 is not bigger than 5, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to bring 10 over. Oops. I had 2 tens already there, so I brought 10 over, so now I have 12 tens. 12 is bigger than 5, and 6 is bigger than 4. So once you have all your larger numbers on top, you're good to subtract. 16 subtract 8 is 8, 12 subtract 5 is 7, and 6 subtract 4 is 2. So that would be a trade first method to getting to the difference or the answer for this subtraction problem. Now looking to the right, we have some zeros, which can be a little tricky, but if we think the same way, 0 is not bigger than 9, so we have to go next door, but you don't have any until you think of 900 is the same as 90 tens. They are the same thing. So now I think, okay, 90 tens, I'm going to drop it down by 1, and now I have 89 tens. Now I can bring 10 over. 10 subtract 9 is what works. 9 subtract 5. 9 is bigger than 5, and 8 is bigger than 7. So we're good to subtract, and we get an answer of 141. So those are just a couple more examples of trading the trading first method for subtracting. The next problems are going to be for you to put in your math notebook. So you will be copying these problems down very neatly. Make sure you're lining up your place values, your digits, and then you are going to work out the problems. You will do a ballpark estimate first, and then I will be working out the problems, so you will stop the video and do your work, and then you get to check back. So stop your video now and work out the problems. 67, I see, it rounds up to 70. 49 is close to 50. So I know a ballpark estimate would be about 20. So now I'm going to go ahead and work it out. 7 is not bigger than 9, so I need to trade. So I'm going to borrow 10, bring 10 over. I had 7 already, so now I have 17. 17 is bigger than 9, 5 is bigger than 4, so we're good to subtract. So the answer is 18. So our ballpark estimate works out quite nicely. Now here's a problem with those zeros. So first of all, I'm going to do a ballpark estimate. 400, well, 400 is pretty estimated. 279, I'm going to look to that right. With that 7, I'm going to bump this up to 300. And I'm going to think a ballpark estimate of about 100. So we need to do some subtracting. 0 is not bigger than 9, so I go next door. There is a 0, so I have to think 400 is the same as 40 tens. So I'm going to drop it down by 1, and you can see I boxed in that. That just helps me to see the 40. Drop it down 139, and then carry my 10 over. So 10 subtract 9 is 1. 9 subtract 7 is 2, and 3 subtract 2 is 1. So our actual answer is 121. Ballpark estimate was about 100, so we're only 21 away. The last problem is in your thousands, so I'm going to think highest place is 1,000, so I'm going to look to that right, and I know with the 9 I'm going to bump this up to 4,000. I'm going to subtract. There's 1,000. Look to the right. That is 3 tells me to stay, so I'm going to stay at 1,000. And then just basically subtracting. I know the answer is going to be somewhere around 3,000. So let's do the subtracting. 1 is not bigger than 8, so we need to borrow. So I'm going to drop that 4 down to 3. Bring 10 over, join up with my 1. 11 is bigger than 8. 3 now is bigger than 2. 9 is bigger than 3. And 3 is bigger than 1. So now we can start subtracting. And we have 11 subtract 8 is 3. 3 subtract 2 is 1. 9 subtract 3 is 6. And 3 subtract 1 is 2,000. So 2,613 is fairly close to our estimated answer of about 3,000, because if you went to your 2, you bumped up that 6. Looking at that 6 and bumping it up, it would go to 3,000. So we're in the ballpark. That's exactly what a ballpark estimate is. You're close. Our final task for today is to just practice a couple more trading for subtraction where there are those zeros. So the next 2 problems are going to have zeros in them, and you are going to be thinking about ballpark estimates. So again, 500 subtract 364, which is about 400. Again, there is about 100 difference. 603 or 6,003 is about 6,000. 1,979 is about 2,000. So the difference is about 4,000. So these are your ballpark estimates for this next problem that you are going to figure out. So you're going to, again, stop your video and you're going to copy these problems in your math notebook, and then work out the problems, and then you can check in to see how well you have done. 0, do borrow from my 50 tens, which is 49. Now I can carry 10 over. 10 is bigger than 4, 9 is bigger than 6, 4 is bigger than 3. We're good to go. 10 subtract 4 is 6, 9 subtract 6 is 3. We have 136. So again, going back, you had about 100 as your estimate. The actual is 136. So we did some good ballpark estimating. This next problem, we are in the thousands. 3 is not bigger than 9, so 0 is not bigger than 7, so we need to do some regrouping. So I have to go next door. Can't borrow, there's 0, can't do there. So now I had to, you can see I boxed in 600. So 600, and we need to borrow from that 600, and 600 is the same as 6,000 is the same as 600 tens. So I am going to drop down 600 tens to 599, and now I can carry 10 over to join up with those 3. So now we have 13 subtract 9, 9 subtract 7, 9 subtract 9 we can do, and 5 subtract 1. So we know we now have all our larger numbers on top. So 13 take away 9 is 4, 9 subtract 7 is 2, 9 subtract 9 is 0, and 5 subtract 1 is 4. So we have 4,024, and if you go back to your ballpark, your ballpark estimate was 4,000. So we did some good estimating and some good thinking with our computation. Hopefully you are ready to start thinking about answering the quiz questions. If you're not, you can always go back and re-watch any portion of the video that you feel that you need to help you get to the accurate answers. So question number 1 is working with ballpark estimates. Question number 2 is working using the trade first method to find the difference, and this is the big part. You have to make sure you show your work in your math notebook for quiz question number 2. Quiz question number 3, you also have to make sure you show your work. And quiz question number 4, you have to show your work. So you have 3 problems that you really have to make sure that you are setting up your notebook and showing your thinking for questions 2, 3, and 4. Good luck, and we'll be checking your work tomorrow.